Tyrannosaurid, or Tyrannosauridae, is a family of large theropod dinosaurs. It contains the rockstar species, the Tyrannosaurus rex, and its relatives. Tyrannosaurids are commonly classified into two subfamilies, the Albertosaurine and the Tyrannosaurinae. Albertosaurines are characterized by more slender builds, lower skulls, and proportionately longer leg bones than the Tyrannosaurines. The Tyrannosaurids are well studied. Multiple very complete remains have been discovered for most genera, and their anatomy is relatively well understood, unlike other dinosaur groups. Now, I have to make the distinction clear that this video is about the family Tyrannosauridae, not the superfamily Tyrannosauroidae. They might all be colloquially known as Tyrannosaur, but formally, Tyrannosauridae or Tyrannosaurids is a specific classification within the group. And in this video, I'll present every Tyrannosaurid ever described, including possible synonyms and dubious names, sorted based on their estimated size, from the smallest to the largest. Raptorex. The exact identity of Raptorex is unclear. The specimen comes from a juvenile individual, estimated to be only 3 years old when it died. Raptorex is only known from a single specimen with unclear origin. The exact stratigraphic position and age is unknown because it was smuggled out of China by a fossil dealer. The specimen likely originated from Mongolia, from the Namaked Formation, the same site where Tarbosaurus was found. Raptorex exhibited similar proportions to juvenile Tyrannosaurids, particularly Tarbosaurus, suggesting it may belong to the same genus in its juvenile stage. But in an analysis in 2022, Raptorex was suggested to be a valid genus, closely related to Tarbosaurus and Tyrannosaurus. The validity of this genus still remains disputed. Nanotyrannus. Okay, this is a controversial one again. The holotype Nanotyrannus specimen, discovered in the Hell Creek Formation in Montana, was first described as a new species of Gorgosaurus in 1946. Then, in 1988, the specimen was redescribed as a new genus, Nanotyrannus. 11 years later, the specimen was re-examined and was revealed to be a juvenile that might belong to Tyrannosaurus rex. During this period, many juvenile Tyrannosaurids were being classified as distinct species, but after the growth history of Tyrannosaurids are better understood, that they underwent significant ontogenetic changes from agile to robust hunters as they age, especially in Tyrannosaurus rex. They experienced a dramatic growth spurt. Researchers began more accurately assigning smaller Tyrannosaurid specimens as the juvenile forms of established taxa. But this was not the case for Nanotyrannus. In 2001, a more complete specimen of a juvenile Tyrannosaurus was unearthed. This discovery allowed comparisons with the holotype Nanotyrannus specimen to be made. Many experts concluded that Nanotyrannus was, in fact, a juvenile Tyrannosaurus. However, a handful of follow-up studies continued to be made on this matter, both proving and disproving the validity of Nanotyrannus. The skull of Nanotyrannus has been found to match the growth series of Tyrannosaurus rex, transitioning from its juvenile to mature form. The alleged autapomorphic differences observed in the Nanotyrannus specimen might have been the results of individual or ontogenetic variation, or taphonomic distortion. By common consensus, we can consider Nanotyrannus invalid and close the case. But earlier this year, a new study was published suggesting that Nanotyrannus is valid and was found to be quite distantly related to Tyrannosaurus. Some paleontologists have raised concerns about this claim, but I'll leave it here. We still have many genera to cover. Aublysodon was first described based only on a tooth fossil in 1868. Many names have been attributed under this genus over the years, most of which were based on similar tooth fossils, teeth that now have been assigned to juvenile Tyrannosaurids such as Daspletosaurus, Gorgosaurus, Tarbosaurus, and Tyrannosaurus. The validity of this name is disputed and is no longer commonly used. Deinodon. is no longer considered a valid taxon. It was described based only on a set of teeth. Like Aublysodon, these teeth probably belonged to Gorgosaurus or other juvenile Tyrannosaurids. Over the years, many specimens have been named under the genus Deinodon, but they all now have been reclassified, synonymized, or considered nomen dubium. Alioramus is a genus of slender and relatively small-sized Tyrannosaurid. The genus contains 2 species, both discovered in the Nanuqsaurus Formation in Mongolia. Alioramus's anatomy somewhat resembles those of young Tyrannosaurines, and although both specimens come from juvenile individuals, we know that adult Alioramus did not grow to the proportions of larger Tyrannosaurids. Alioramus likely occupied a different niche and hunted smaller, faster-moving prey, separating them in resource requirements with the larger contemporaneous Tyrannosaurid Tarbosaurus. Alioramus also coexisted with other theropods, Pachycephalosauria, hadrosaurids like Saurolophus, and many other dinosaurs. Nanuqsaurus. Remains of Nanuqsaurus were discovered in the Prince Creek Formation in northern Alaska. Due to the incomplete nature of the Nanuqsaurus specimen, size estimates vary, from a diminutive 5 to 6 meters to comparable to other Tyrannosaurids at 8 to 9 meters. Nanuqsaurus was unique in that it lived in polar regions and had to endure extreme climate conditions, with temperatures estimated to reach sub-zero during the winter months and 4 months of continuous low-light conditions. Nanuqsaurus has been speculated to be covered in insulating feathers to survive the cold, although the integumentary covering of Tyrannosaurids in general is still highly debated. Lythronax, meaning Gore King, is by far the edgiest dinosaur name I've ever heard. It is a relatively small Tyrannosaurid with a short snout and broad skull, the width over 40% of the length. This broad skull gave Lythronax forward-facing eyes that enabled depth perception. Lythronax is only known from a partial skeleton, discovered in the Wawib Formation in Utah. It lived around 81.5 million years ago, making it the oldest Tyrannosaurid discovered so far. Qianzhousaurus is a medium-sized, slender Tyrannosaurid, closely related to Alioramus. Both genera are grouped within the tribe Alioramini. They remained as agile, fast-moving predators throughout their lives. The skull structure of Qianzhousaurus and other Alioramins indicated that they have a weaker bite force, thus primarily hunting small, particularly fast prey. This unique physiology allowed for a niche differentiation from other larger Tyrannosaurids. Qianzhousaurus was discovered in the Nanxiong Formation in China. This site is known for its abundant oviraptorosaurs and other dinosaur species. Teratophoneus is a genus of Tyrannosaurid dinosaur from Utah in the Kyparoids Formation. It was described based on several partial and fragmented specimens. In 2021, fossils belonging to 4 or 5 individuals were described to be the remains of Teratophoneus. This fossil indicates a possibility for gregarious behavior, as the individuals seem to have died at relatively the same time, most likely killed together by a flooding event. Thanatotheristes is a genus of Tyrannosaurids from Alberta, Canada. It means Reaper of Death, or literally Death Reapers. Sounds like the name of a metal band made by high schoolers, but okay. It was described in 2020 from an incomplete specimen. Thanatotheristes has been suggested to be closely related to Daspletosaurus and thus similar in morphology but of smaller size. Albertosaurus was named based on the Canadian province Alberta in which its fossils were discovered. Albertosaurus is known from more than 30 specimens of all ages, the youngest being a 2-year-old juvenile measuring around 2 meters, and the oldest being a 28-year-old 10-meter-long specimen. They were discovered at the same site. In fact, the dry island bone bed contained 26 Albertosaurus specimens of different sizes that died at the same time. This might indicate pack behavior, but the theory is contested, as the aggregation of dinosaurs' dead bodies might have been the result of natural processes like flooding. Albertosaurus is classified into the subfamily Albertosaurinae that had a more slender build, a smaller head and longer hind limbs compared to other Tyrannosaurids. Based on fossilized skin impressions, Albertosaurus is known to have scales instead of feathers. Albertosaurus lived alongside other dinosaurs such as hadrosaurids, ankylosaurians and other theropods, as well as other animals like crocodilians and turtles. Gorgosaurus was first described in 1914 from a nearly complete skeleton. Over the years, other near-complete skeletons were discovered. To date, dozens of Gorgosaurus specimens of varying sizes have been excavated from the Dinosaur Park Formation, making Gorgosaurus one of the best represented tyrannosaurids in the fossil record. Gorgosaurus is very similar to Albertosaurus. They are the only known members of the subfamily Albertosaurinae. By examining the growth curve of Tyrannosaurids, we can see that Gorgosaurus also changed from agile juveniles to robust adults roughly in the middle of its life. Fossil evidence indicated that juvenile Gorgosaurus relied on speed and agility to hunt much smaller prey and was a solitary hunter. The ontogenetic changes led to a dietary shift that allowed Gorgosaurus to hunt larger prey at the later half of its life. Gorgosaurus remains have never been found in groups, showing no signs of gregariousness, except for a specimen with facial bite injuries that might have been inflicted by a different species anyway. Gorgosaurus lived in a subtropical climate with diverse fauna, including many other dinosaurs. It coexisted with a rarer species of Tyrannosaurid, Daspletosaurus. The evidence of niche differentiation is unclear. It might have been geographical. Dynamoterror was described in 2018 based on a partial and fragmented skeleton. The validity of the taxon has been put to question since it was described from very limited remains. A more complete specimen of Dynamoterror has been identified in 2021, but it has not been described in detail. Bistahieversor. This genus was described in 2010 based on specimens discovered in the 90s and 2000. The specimens were initially assigned to the now defunct genus Aublysodon before they were re-examined and finally given a new name, Bistahieversor. The classification of this genus is not clear. Bistahieversor was initially described as a Eutyrannosaurian Tyrannosauroid, but later it was considered a Tyrannosaurine. This discrepancy in classification still persists in other newer related papers. Daspletosaurus. The genus Daspletosaurus contains 3 species, and additional materials have been discovered that have been assigned to this genus, but not to the species level. Some specimens assigned to other genera, such as Bistahieversor and Thanatotheristes, have also been suggested to represent separate species of Daspletosaurus. Daspletosaurus had a massive, heavily constructed skull with fused bones to improve strength. Like other Tyrannosaurids, Daspletosaurus' skull had large fenestrae or openings to reduce weight. The teeth were long and thick. It had a muscular body with a long, heavy tail for balance. Its forelimbs, despite being tiny, are the longest in proportion amongst other Tyrannosaurids. Potential for social behaviors has been observed in Daspletosaurus. Bite marks present in the skull could have been inflicted by another Daspletosaurus. Remains of several individuals of different sizes buried together have been found in Daspletosaurus, but evidence of cooperative pack hunting behavior is uncertain, and it has been found to be cannibalistic. Daspletosaurus would have been the apex predator in its ecosystem, although it coexisted with a similarly sized but more lightly built and more common Gorgosaurus. There is some evidence of niche differentiation between the two, but it's not apparent. Daspletosaurus lived in a diverse ecosystem of vast floodplains along the western shore of the interior seaway. The two Madison and Judith River formations have yielded incredible diversity of vertebrate fossils, thanks to a combination of natural phenomena ideal for fossilization. Zhuchengtyrannus was a large tyrannosaurid found in China. Materials of Zhuchengtyrannus were discovered in 2010. The specimen consists of partial skull remains. Zhuchengtyrannus, Tarbosaurus, and Tyrannosaurus are closely related. They form a tribe called the Tyrannosaurine. Based on the close relationship of these genera, it is indicative that the North American Tyrannosaurus was an immigrant from Asia, although Tyrannosaurid geographical dispersal is still unclear. Tarbosaurus was a large Tyrannosaurid from Asia. Tarbosaurus' anatomy is well understood, thanks to more than 30 discovered specimens, including several quite complete skeletons. It had a big head, long muscular legs, and a heavy tail for counterbalance. Tarbosaurus had the smallest arms proportionally among other Tyrannosaurids. Most Tarbosaurus specimens were found from the Nemegt Formation in Mongolia, but just like other dinosaur fossils from the region, Tarbosaurus fossils have been stolen and smuggled out to be sold in private auctions for lucrative prices. But fortunately, after a court case, the stolen fossils have been returned to Mongolia. Tarbosaurus is closely related to Tyrannosaurus from North America, but Tarbosaurus had more teeth and a narrower skull. Analysis of Tarbosaurus' brain case revealed a keen sense of smell and hearing, but relatively poor eyesight. Evidence of both scavenging and active predation has been observed. Tarbosaurus was the largest predator in the area and would have hunted large dinosaurs such as Titanosaurs and Hadrosaurs. It had a bone-crushing bite force, and the skull was more rigid, possibly an adaptation for hunting the massive Titanosaurid sauropods that inhabited the same ecosystem. Tyrannosaurus is the largest Tyrannosaurid and the most massive predator to have ever walked the earth. The type species, Tyrannosaurus rex, is the most popular dinosaur and is an icon in pop culture. It is the only dinosaur to be popularly known with its specific name included. Currently, there are two valid species within this genus, Tyrannosaurus rex and the newly named Tyrannosaurus macraensis. However, throughout the years, numerous species of Tyrannosaurus have been named, with most considered dubious or synonymous with Tyrannosaurus rex. Tyrannosaurus fossils were abundant, and some nearly complete skeletons of various ages have been found. This enabled significant research into its biology, making it the most well-studied dinosaur. Histological analysis showed that Tyrannosaurus might have lived up to 28 years and underwent a dramatic growth curve, experiencing a sudden growth spurt in the middle of their lives, changing from agile, slender juveniles to robust, heavyweight adults in just 4 years. At their peak, it has been estimated that they gained on average 600 kilograms of body weight every year. This growth rate also indicated that Tyrannosaurus, and by extension, dinosaurs in general, are endothermic or warm-blooded animals. Various evidence of active predation of Tyrannosaurus have been documented, such as healed wound marks in Triceratops and Edmontosaurus, inflicted by Tyrannosaurus. Tyrannosaurus has been calculated to possess the most powerful bite force of any terrestrial animal, capable of crushing bones. They might have employed both active predation and scavenging as their feeding strategy. Tyrannosaurus was also cannibalistic, at least in a scavenging capacity. Evidence gathered from various specimens suggests opportunistic feeding behavior in Tyrannosaurids that cannibalized members of their own species. Tyrannosaurus is estimated to have had a large population size, spanning from the north to South Laramidia, occupying the role of apex predator in many different ecosystems. In the Hell Creek Formation, Tyrannosaurus coexisted with many other iconic dinosaurs, such as Triceratops, Ankylosaurus, Pachycephalosaurus, and the giant Edmontosaurus. Tyrannosaurus rex lived until the end of the Cretaceous, marked by the KPG extinction event that ended the reign of all non-avian dinosaurs. Now, before we go into the size comparison, there are still some obscure invalid Tyrannosaurid genera. Many of them are misnomers. Most, if not all, of the specimens attributed to these names have been reassigned to other Tyrannosaurid genera. And those are all of the Tyrannosaurid genera that have been formally described to date. The relative abundance of Tyrannosaurid fossils has allowed us to reveal the spectacular nature of these ancient beasts. They evolved and diversified in the late Cretaceous and quickly filled the niche of apex predators that has been left out by the preceding more ancient carnosaurs. Tyrannosaurids are notable for their large size, robust skulls, bipedal stance on long, muscular hind limbs, and disproportionately small, two-fingered arms. Tyrannosaurids are iconic, and it's easy to see why. Many of them were apex predators in their ecosystems, and their dominance over their environment was absolute. Tyrannosaurids evolved into some of the most powerful and most recognizable terrestrial predators to have ever lived.